Guess what? The fall DIY season is upon us. I'm sitting outside of my Dollar Tree and I thought, what better way to kick off this fall DIY season than to bring you some of my most favorite Dollar Tree fall DIYs, along with a few other ones sprinkled in for good measure. My name is Courtney. This is Creative on the Cheap. Let's get crafting. If you are a fan of miniature things, this is going to be a DIY you will want to make. Grab one of these signs from Dollar Tree and break it apart. Take the backing of the sign, flip it over, and give it a good coat of some white chalk paint. Set it aside and let that dry. From there, you want to grab some of these styrofoam pumpkins that are on picks. Dollar Tree has three different sizes, I believe. These are the very small ones. I'm using a pool noodle just to help this because I wanted to paint them just a little bit of a different shade of orange. I wasn't quite digging this color, so I painted them with the orange paint and then looked at the stems and thought, okay, those are a little too tall, and gave those a quick trim. From there, I wanted these pumpkins to have kind of a little bit of texture to them. I don't know, give off some kind of gourd type vibe. So I hit them with my heat gun and that made them all kind of bubbly, and I don't know, I just really loved the vibe it gives off. To make my sign nice and pretty, I grabbed some of this fall scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby, traced around the backing, and then just used a glue stick to glue this over the previous design. I just wanted the back to look nice, even though you really won't see it. It's the thought, I guess, that counts. Then I put the back into my sign, and I was ready to start hot gluing some of these mini hay bales from Dollar Tree. I stacked them around, just used hot glue to attach them, and then I also took my little mini pumpkins and hot glued those down as well. I grabbed one of these little chalkboard signs from Dollar Tree. It has the clothespin on the back, pulled off the clothespin, and then glued a Dollar Tree bamboo skewer to it because I wanted to make a little sign. I also created a free printable here. Anything that I use today, printables, tools, whatever, always check the description box. I always do link that in every single video so you can find the information down there. Here's just a couple of different options. I picked the one that I like, cut it out, and I glued it to my sign, and then hot glued my sign into my scene. From there, I decided it needed a little bit of something else, and so I made a little banner. I took some twine and hot glued that to the back of the little scene, and then just used some of that fall scrapbook paper again, cut little triangles, and hot glued those directly to the twine. And what's great about this sign is you could make yourself a really cute, maybe 3-piece set where you grab some of the wooden apples that Dollar Tree has, the acorns or the mushrooms that they have this year, and do a little vignette with 3 different miniature scenes. It would be so cute. For this DIY, you want to grab yourself one of the Dollar Tree pumpkin forms and some yarn. Now this yarn just screams fall to me. I found it at Hobby Lobby. It's by Yarn Bee. You can often get it for 30 or 40% off. You want to start by perhaps finding yourself a bunch of movies to watch. Maybe the Back to Future trilogy, maybe Harry Potter, maybe Lord of Rings, because I'm telling you right now, this is one of those projects that takes a really long time, but it's so worth it. So to start, you want to take that yarn and wrap all along the edge. So start by wrapping around the stem and then wrapping around the outside of the pumpkin along with each of the ridges of the pumpkin.
Eight hours later.
Now that that part is all finished, you want to flip your pumpkin form over, grab the yarn, and we're going to start by tacking down strips of yarn using hot glue. Start at the top and work your way down. You want to just tack it to each of the little ridges, pulling it kind of tight in between each one. And what I did was I just would take a strip, go all the way to the end, cut it, and then go to the next row and then tack it on with the hot glue all the way until you get to the very bottom, and then your pumpkin is ready to be hung up. For this DIY, you want to grab a pack of these mug wooden cutouts and start by painting it. I decided to paint the top with some white paint and then the mug orange, but if you wanted to make it a little three-dimensional, grab some spackle. You could put that up there on the whipped cream or foam top. That would definitely be cute as well. Once I got it all painted, I grabbed a sticker sheet from Dollar Tree and picked out a pumpkin that I really liked to put on the mug. And then I grabbed one of my acrylic markers and went in and just kind of highlighted around the mug just to give it a little bit of definition. And then on Amazon, I ordered some of these fall colored felt balls, and it was a huge long string of them. So I just took a couple because I wasn't trying to make a full garland. I was just kind of making a little thing that you could kind of, set down on a tray or maybe on a bookshelf. So I grabbed some of those and then tied that to my little wooden cup and made a tassel for the other end. Simple way that I make tassels is I just take the yarn, which this yarn is from Dollar Tree, wrap it around my hand a bunch of times, tie it off, cut it, and then I kind of just make the little poof and tie some yarn around that to make, the little top part and attach it to the yarn. And then this little garland is ready to go. Here's another little mini DIY. Now this project was something that I made in a mystery box. So I had to use this lighted garland, but for this DIY, just grab yourself some of the mini clothespins. That's what you will need. And then you want to grab one of the craft jars that Dollar Tree has, because you're going to need the lid from that craft jar. So start by taking your clothespins, break them down to where you split them apart, and you want to paint the lid of the craft jar with the brown paint, and then take those clothespins and start hot gluing them all the way around on the lid, and then paint that all brown as well. Now, if you've been itching for an apple craft, this is it. This is it. I'm going to be making apples to put in my little barrel, but you could do pumpkins. And if you saw my Instagram, I hauled some little wooden mini apples. They had acorns last year and they have apples this year. So you could just grab those just as easily, but I used clay to make my apples and some of my sculpting tools. And essentially I just took the Sculpey clay and made it into little balls, kind of shaped them like an apple, made stems, leaves, baked them in the oven. Once they were all cool, I took 3 different shades of red and painted my apples. Then the leaves were green and the stems were brown. To give my apples a waxy sheen or that kind of glossy glow, I used a coat of the glossy Mod Podge, painted that all over the apples and then let that dry really well. For the barrel, to finish it off, I grabbed some cording, and where the metal piece on the clothespin sits, I first hot glued a piece of black metal cording all the way around the kind of the bottom part of the barrel. And then I also took some more hot glue and hot glued another piece of cording towards the top of the barrel. Once that was finished, I took some raffia and used that kind of as my hay, but you could pick up some of the mini hay bales from Dollar Tree, throw those in there if you'd like. That would work as well. And I started putting my apples in there and decided I needed to make a little sign for it. So I used, again, another one of these little mini chalkboards. I just used a whiteout pen to write apples for sale, hot glued a bamboo skewer to it, and then I just needed to stick that in my barrel and put it in the back of my truck, and this little DIY is good to go. If you are a fan of s'mores, this is the DIY for you. Now, this box set actually came from Michael's on clearance, but Dollar Tree does have all the supplies that you could make this. If you want me to try to pull a Dollar Tree version together, kind of like that other candy box thing, let me know, because essentially it's all the same supplies and I can definitely do that for you guys. So just let me know down below in the comments. You want to start by taping off the top of your box and the bottom. Grab 3 colors that represent s'mores. So you'll need a white, a tannish color to represent the graham crackers, and then a nice brown color to represent the chocolate. You want to paint the middle portion of the boxes all the way around. Let that dry really good. And then for me, when I set them back in their little tray, they were kind of sunken down, so I added some tumbling tower blocks to the base of them just to lift them up a little bit. Once that was finished, on the front of my tray, I cut out on my Cricut the words S'mores Headquarters. I'll link the cut file down below if you happen to have a Cricut. If you don't, just grab stickers. You can do this just the same. And then on the actual boxes themselves, I have a printable. I just printed it out on regular printer paper, cut out my images, and then used Mod Podge to attach it to the front of each of the boxes. Once that was all sealed and it was attached, this was ready to be used. This fall DIY was also a result of the mystery box challenge. So I had this sign that was given to me, kind of partially painted. I decided to break it down, and I had one of these printed fabrics. I wanted to do something different other than just painting the entire sign. So I trimmed the fabric around so that I knew it would fit over there. But before I attached the fabric, I painted the little flip portion with orange paint on both sides. Once that was painted orange, I laid my sign on top of my fabric and marked where the little flip portion was so that I could trim that and open that up. I trimmed that up and basically made a little rectangular box with the fabric, and then just used my hot glue to attach this, kind of pulling the fabric tight as I went all the way around the board. Here's what the sign looks like at this point. I grabbed one of these wooden pumpkin cutouts from Dollar Tree, painted it with some white paint, went around the edges with a little bit of black paint, and then grabbed some of my ribbon, a couple different ribbons, and tied a bow with the ribbon. Now we're ready to hot glue the ribbon bundle down to the pumpkin, glue the pumpkin down to the sign, and for the wording on the pumpkin, I'm using some Dollar Tree stickers to spell out the word pumpkin patch. For the flip portion of this sign, I'm actually using stickers from Hobby Lobby because they are a little bit larger. One side's gonna say open, the other side is gonna say closed. And in the corners of the sign, I glued down some wooden buttons that I got from Hobby Lobby, and this sign is done. Here's a DIY you can do with one of these little pom-pom signs that Dollar Tree has. Start by breaking down your sign, and once you get that broken down, I made a printable that just says Fall Bucket List. You can print this out, and we're going to end up attaching this to the back of the sign. Now, to get rid of the text on the glass, I just like to scrape it off. That's just kind of my preferred method. Nail polish never really ever works for me. So that's how I'm going to get that off. And once the printable is attached to the back, I purchased a pack of all these little mini pom-poms. It came with tons of different colors. I want to say it was like 10 bucks. I'm not sure, but I will link it down below. And I pulled out fall colors, orange and yellow and brown. And essentially, I just wanted to kind of keep the same concept of this sign with the pom-pom because I thought it was cute, but just give it a fall vibe. To finish it off, I hot glued a piece of this orange and white gingham ribbon to the back that I got from Hobby Lobby, and that's it. This is a great little sign if you wanted to make a little fall basket for somebody. You could maybe put s'mores things in there or cozy blanket, add this little bucket list to it. That would be a really cute gift. Now for this one, I am reusing a craft that I made quite a while ago. This is just some scrap wood that I had used for a different project. They're 1x4s that were painted white, cut to about 6 inches long. I'm making a faux book stack. So I painted one of them orange, one of them red, and one of them brown. I cut out some decals on my Cricut. I'll link the cut file down below. And I just attached those directly to the wooden books. Now you could use stickers here as well if you don't have a Cricut. And then to finish it off, I just took some twine that I strung some beads up on, just kind of spacing them out just to make it look a little different, tied them up, and that's it. It's ready to go. We are going to whip up a super quick garland right now. So for this one, you want to start with some of these pumpkins from Dollar Tree. You can pick either the cream colored ones or the orange. I am going to pull off the stems because honestly, on all these little fake pumpkins, I usually either paint them with some brown chalk paint or just paint over the stems because I feel like they're kind of waxy. I did want to give these a coat of kind of a cream colored paint. I wasn't quite digging they were a little more yellow than they were putting off here on camera. So I painted all the pumpkins, and then for the stems, I used some bronze metallic paint. Once the stems get put back in those pumpkins, we are ready to assemble this garland. I'm going to use more of those fall colored felt balls. I'm going to string up 5 of them, then string on a pumpkin, 5 more felt balls, then a pumpkin until I get the garland the length that I want it, and then it is ready to be hung up. While we're on garlands, I want to make a really fun lighted fabric and pumpkin garland. So for this, you want to grab some different fall themed fabrics. These 3 came from Hobby Lobby. I also grabbed some lace to work into this garland that also came from Hobby Lobby. And what you want to start by doing is cut your fabric into strips. I cut mine a 1/2 inch wide by 3.5 inches long. And you just want to cut a ton of strips. It's going to depend on the length of your fairy lights that you're using. I'm using kind of a long strand that I got in a pack from Costco that can do like different settings. So you just kind of have to determine how many you might want to use. And once I get my strips cut, then what you want to do is start tying them directly onto your fairy lights. And I just double knotted mine. I did it in a pattern, and essentially I did about 8 pieces of fabric, including the lace. And then I attached one of the little plaid Dollar Tree pumpkins just by wrapping the fairy light wire on the underside of the stem. It kind of held it there securely. And then I continued to do that until my entire strand was covered. And then that's it. This garland is so precious. It just gives off all the fall vibes and looks really pretty at night. This is one of my favorite DIYs that I've made so far. It's gonna be a mini wagon. You wanna grab a wooden crate from Dollar Tree and stain it or paint it. I stained mine with the dark walnut Minwax stain, and then using some of these stem pieces that came from Dollar Tree quite a while ago, I still have tons of them left. I'm going to use these as wheels, but if you don't have them, just go out in the front yard, do a little pruning, and get yourself some wheels that way. Once you've got your 4 pieces, you want to hot glue those to the bottom of your crate. The next step is to take a popsicle stick and trim off the end of it. I don't know, it's about 1/4 of an inch maybe long. You want to hot glue it to the bottom of that to where there's a little lip kind of sticking off the front of the wagon. Then the other piece of the popsicle stick where you trimmed that little piece off, you're going to hot glue that to that little lip that is sticking out, and then make sure that the top of that one isn't rounded anymore, that you trim that as well. Then I'm just going to use a little piece of wire here to make the handle for my wagon. I'm going to fold it into a little oval shape and attach it to the end of that popsicle stick with some hot glue. Here is a little printable that I made for some signs that you can put on the side of your wagon. I'm going to pick one of these, cut it out. I decided I wanted to kind of be a sturdy, chunky type sign, so I'm going to cut a piece of cardboard that's the size of it, and then just use a glue stick to glue my little printable to the cardboard. And then to attach my sign to the wagon, I'm not going to permanently attach this to it. I'm going to put some twine on the back of my sign and tie it to the crate wagon, because by doing this, then you can use this wagon all year long, and you can make signs for Christmas and maybe put Christmas trees in there. You could do watermelons for summertime. You could do lemons, snowflakes, hearts. So you could use it all year long just by making a few signs that you can change out. For the inside of my wagon, I'm just taking some raffia and trimming it up and sticking it in there. Then I grab some more of these mini pumpkins. Again, I'm removing the stems because I just don't like that waxy look. I'm going to hit them with a little bit of the Truffle Waverly Chalk Point just to kind of make them not be so shiny. And then stick those in there, and then cut a few more pieces of raffia and just tuck it in here or there, and then this wagon is ready to be displayed. Now for this DIY, we're going to take some of these pumpkins that they have every single year and give them just more of a 3-dimensional look. You want to start by grabbing one of the whole pumpkins and take off that stem, take off that raffia, and then take 2 of the pieces that you cut longwise, and you're going to hot glue them to that whole pumpkin. So you're going to hot glue one to the front, and you're going to hot glue one to the back. Once you get that, you're going to take the other 2 pieces that you have and also hot glue those in to where you kind of end up with this nice 6-ridged looking 3D pumpkin. Once all the pieces were put together, and as I don't know if you caught my phone there, I was calling Jennifer from a little bit of Common Crazy. I put some hot glue in there to secure those, added some spackle to fill in any of the holes, and then once the spackle was dry, I took some of this Monarch chalk paint from Folk Art. I absolutely love this color of orange. I use it a ton during the fall, and I painted my pumpkin all the way with that paint. While the vertical pumpkin's drying, now we're going to make a little short and squatty one. You're doing the same process where you cut the pieces, except now you're doing it kind of horizontal. So you lay it on its side, glue one on the front, one on the back, attach the other 2, put your spackle in there, let it dry, paint it with some orange paint, and then once they're all dry, I'm using more of those wooden stems to attach to the tops of my pumpkins, just using some hot glue to get those attached. And then I took some twine, and I had this kind of suede rope that I'm going to tie around it in a bow and use that. I had some of the wire twine to make a little coil on one of the pumpkins, and that's it. These pumpkins are ready to go. All right, now this one is a super fun one to make. We're gonna make an apple barrel. I'll be using paint stir sticks and some embroidery hoops, but if you don't have embroidery hoops, pick up some of these mini wreath forms from Dollar Tree. They will work just as well. The first step is to take your hoops, and you want to use the hoop in the inside, not the one that has the tightening mechanism on them. You do need a smaller hoop as well as a larger hoop. Once you got those hoops, you want to take your smaller hoop and take a piece of foam board from Dollar Tree. And now I am tracing the outside of the hoop. And once I get that traced and cut out, I just kind of trim it down until I get it to fit inside of my smaller hoop. Now you certainly could have just traced the inside, but I was trying to get it to where it was going to be super snug in there, so that's why I just chose to make it a little bit bigger and trim it down that way. Use some hot glue to get that secured and attached to that smaller hoop. We are ready to paint. So you want to paint everything you have. So paint that larger hoop, the smaller hoop, and the foam board, and then 16 paint sticks. I'm using the color Elephant by Waverly Chalk Paint. Time to get this assembled. The easiest way I found to do this was you want to take a paint stir stick, take your larger hoop, and then take your other paint stir sticks and just start sticking them inside. When you glue your foam board to that smaller ring, just make sure that you push it all the way to the bottom. It'll leave a little bit of a lip, which is great because these paint stir sticks will be able to attach to that little lip. I hope that makes sense. So to do it, what I did is I just started by putting some glue on the bottom. I glued it to the top ring. I went to the opposite side, glued that one, and I continued to do that, just kind of making sure I'm trying to get them spaced evenly. It was a little bit of a challenge, but not anything too tricky. Then to distress this a little bit, I'm using some of the steel Waverly Chalk Paint, and I'm brushing that all over the apple barrel. The finishing touches here was just to take a little bit of brown wax, and I used a little makeup sponge that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just brushed it kind of along the edges, along the tops, just hit it here and there, threw my apples in there. All of my apples came from Hobby Lobby along with some raffia, and it's ready to be put wherever you'd like. Now I've got a super easy little floral display that you can use, put on a tier tray, put on a bookshelf. You want to start with a Dollar Tree sign. I just happen to have this one, so I cut off the top, but if you can find one that's just square, that works great. And you'll also need a glass votive holder. I painted the sign and the votive holder with some of the pumpkin Waverly Chalk Paint, let that dry really well, and I hot glued the votive holder to the bottom of my sign. Once that was done, it's just a matter of arranging what you want to put in there. So I threw in a little bit of raffia. I had a floral pick from Hobby Lobby to put in there. Just arrange it how you'd like, and that's it. You could add some fairy lights if you wanted to add something a little extra. You could moss. I mean, all kinds of options here, but a quick little design that you can pull together in no time at all. Let's bust out another garland using some leaves from Dollar Tree. So here I've got some twine that I'm just using a little bit of tape to help me string up a bunch of wooden beads. I'm just stringing them on there. You could use any size wooden bead that you like. I usually buy mine from Amazon. Once you get all the beads on there and you figure out the length of it, then all you have to do is just take some of these leaves, and I'm just kind of bending them over, securing them with a little bit of hot glue, spacing them just how I want them, and that's it. Voila, the easiest, probably quickest little garland you could ever make. This is a little vignette of pumpkins that is super easy to make. So I had some scrap wood. These are 2x3s cut down to 8, 10, and 12 inches. I'm going to be painting them with some of this Monarch paint by DECOR. If you don't have scrap wood, you certainly could pick up some of the wood pieces and make more of a flat pumpkin. They definitely have those at Dollar Tree. Once they were all painted, I took some brown wax and my fan brush and just brushed the edges and just kind of brushed them all over. And then for the stems, I'm using more of these little Dollar Tree wood pieces. I wanted to make some coils, so I've got some of this green wire to add to some little embellishments, along with some florals from Dollar Tree, some leaves. And then I had one of these little chalkboard pick signs from Dollar Tree and these stickers that came from Hobby Lobby. I picked out a sticker and just stuck it directly on my little sign, pulled off the little, I guess, stake on the back, hot glued that to the twine, and it was ready to go. For this one, you need one of these little signs from Dollar Tree. You want to break it down. Make sure you save that circle piece because you are going to need that piece again. I painted the frame with some brown truffle paint from Waverly Chalk Paint. And then for the actual back piece, I'm going to use a piece of the scrapbook paper. Came from Hobby Lobby. They have it every single year, so it just traced around the backing. Once that was done, I had one of these pumpkins and I cut it in half, pulled off the stem. Make sure you save the stem because you will need that. And then I made another little green coil out of that green floral wire. And I was ready to put my sign back together. So I just used some hot glue to glue the backing. This little piece that came out, I did end up painting that with some ivory chalk paint, and I glued that back in there. And then it was just a matter of reassembling the pumpkin, putting the pumpkin in the stem and the little coil in there. And this piece is ready. It's so perfect for a tier tray or just to set out. Nothing that takes up too much space, but it does give off all the fall vibes. The farmer's market stand. So there've been a couple of pieces that I've made that have been truly original, like creations. The farmhouse foam dice. I don't know if you've ever made one of those with a tic-tac-toe board. That was kind of my big thing. And then this farmer's market stand. So you want to start with a piece of foam board from Dollar Tree. This one's about 5 inches wide by about 10 inches long. Just cut that. And once you get that cut, you're going to grab yourself some of the large popsicle sticks from Walmart, or you could use actually any size popsicle sticks. They don't have to be the big ones. You want to take a popsicle stick, lay it down horizontally, and then take some other popsicle sticks. I'm going to use 5 and put those vertically across and hot glue those together. Now, you want to make some side pieces for this. So it's just 2 popsicle sticks with the crossbar that you're going to glue with some hot glue. And you're going to want to get a piece of foam board. You want to trim it down. I'm sorry I don't have the exact measurements of that one because I actually gifted this to a friend. So you just want to get a piece of foam board and then attach your fence to the foam board. And then take 2 wooden rulers and you're going to glue those to the back corners, the left corner and the right corner, making sure to attach the fence post, attach it to the foam board. And then I'm also using a Jenga block just for a little extra security to make sure that that is attached really, really well. The last thing you need to do to kind of secure this base is take 2 more of those jumbo popsicle sticks and you're going to cut them down and hot glue those to the back and just attach them to those rulers. Just use hot glue and you'll have 2 of those and that'll secure the back. Now that piece that we cut in the beginning, that was about 5 by 10, I think. You want to grab some, these are just, I guess, considered the large popsicle sticks. I'm using jumbo popsicle sticks on the actual farmer stand fence part. I'm going to use 12 total, so I'm going to use 6 that are double stacked. You want to trim those down and just hot glue those to the top of this piece of foam board. This is going to become the roof of your farmer's market stand. Now grab yourself one of the splatter screens and you want to cut out the splatter screen part of this, and we're going to hot glue this directly to the back of our farmer's market stand. I also, because it's kind of I don't know, it wasn't super sharp, but just to protect it and actually make it look nice on the back, I ended up framing up the back with some popsicle sticks, just hot gluing those kind of on top of the splatter screen. And then we're ready to attach our roof. Now to attach the roof, make sure it's super secure. I did take a popsicle stick and glue it to the edge of the foam board, and that way when I set it down on top of the farmer's market stand, that popsicle stick will glue and attach nicely to the other popsicle stick that's there that I added as extra support. To finish this off, I painted the entire thing with some Waverly white chalk paint. Once that was painted, I made a little printable, so sign to put on the splatter screen part to kind of display, as well as a little pumpkins for sale sign that I could stick in with the pumpkins. I took a piece of foam board and hot glued some floral moss to it, put in some little hay bales, put in the little mini pumpkins, and this was ready to go. This is something you can use all year long. You could do Christmas trees, again, you could do hearts, you could do Easter eggs, you could use it all year. Here's a festive little cake stand, display stand that you can make. You want the large oven cover from Dollar Tree. I'm just using some of the Waverly ink chalk paint to paint the whole thing black. Then you're gonna need 2 toilet paper rolls or a paper towel roll and a candlestick from Dollar Tree. You guys have seen me do this hack before where I kind of change the shape of it. So you take the cardboard roll, wrap it around the candlestick, take some painter's tape, you know, it won't go all the way around, so just put your painter's tape there, and then on the other piece, you take that one and wrap it the opposite direction, again, closing it off with some painter's tape. Once I get that all secured and the shape is kind of changed, I take some hot glue and just secure the cardboard to the top. And then one of these little pumpkins from Dollar Tree, I squirt some hot glue in there and decide to use some of the permanent glue so that it definitely won't wobble around. And I stick that pumpkin right inside the top of the candlestick. Then to cover up that yucky cardboard, I take some of the brown rope that Dollar Tree sells and just wrap that all along the candlestick. And before I can attach my little oven cover, I make sure to seal it with some of this matte clear Rust-Oleum sealer just to make sure it won't scratch. And then I attach my oven cover with some permanent glue. I use the Starbond glue with the little accelerator, and that's it. This tray is ready to be displayed. Oh yes, the Lazy Susan. This is the best quick little gift idea that I love to make for weddings, anniversaries, holiday gifts, hostess gifts, just different holidays. It's just a great gift. So here I've got an 18-inch wood round from Home Depot, and I'm painting it with some of the Annie Sloan white chalk paint. I created a design in Cricut Design Space to make a stencil, so I just had it cut on some stencil vinyl, and once I get it all ready, I apply it to my wood round, and then I grab some green paint, some orange paint, some black paint, some brown paint, and I stencil on my design. I let it dry really, really good, and then from there I just take some poly and seal over it, making sure to seal the edges really, really well. And to attach the Lazy Susan hardware, you can just pick that up at Home Depot. You want to use for this round especially, you want to use at least a 6-inch Lazy Susan hardware set. I wouldn't go any smaller than that. Just use some wood screws, screw that in, and then to kind of make it stable, you want to make sure you put some felt pads on each of the little corners of the Lazy Susan hardware, and then this thing is ready to be spun around. And here's something you can do with one of the Dollar Tree cutting boards. I started by painting it with some white chalk paint to kind of take off that, I don't know, the color was, it was like a grayish white. It was like, I don't know, it was a little weird in my opinion. I painted the whole thing, and then I found this free printable on Pinterest that has a pumpkin pie recipe, so I cut that out. To fill in the little spot on the cutting board, I found this pumpkin scrapbook paper that I cut down to make sure it would fit, and I decided that I was going to attach my recipe to the scrapbook paper and then stick that inside of the cutting board just using some Mod Podge. Once that was in there, to kind of just dress it up just a little bit, I took some of the wooden pumpkins that Dollar Tree has and just used my my Arteza acrylic markers and just colored those in. I glued one of those on there, tied a little bit of twine just to kind of, I don't know, give it a little something extra, and then this was ready to be displayed in my kitchen. And there you have it, a roundup of some of my most favorite fall DIYs. Let me know down below which one of these projects was your favorite, or let me know if you've made any of these projects. I would love to know. Also, if there are certain types of projects you're hoping I make, maybe pumpkin theme, maybe DIYs with leaves, let me know that down in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. Here are some more videos that you might enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!